Good evening. The news summary for this Thursday, 24th August. President Weverum Kalawan has left Seychelles this afternoon for Madagascar, where he will be attending the first match of the Seychelles football team later this evening. President Ramkalawan left on an Air Seychelles chartered flight together with the second delegation of athletes who will be participating in the 11th edition of the Indian Ocean Games. These are the basketball, tennis, cycling and badminton teams, amongst others. The last delegation of athletes will be leaving Seychelles this evening. The Seychelles Ports Authority is in the process of reviewing the prices of fees charged for vessels that berth at or use its services at Port Victoria. Those changes were discussed by the Cabinet of Ministers yesterday during their weekly meeting. The changes in the fees are a necessity for port development in order to enhance customer services. Vice President Ahmed Afif said that the Cabinet decided that the amount for the new fees should be realistic and should be discussed widely with the stakeholders.
There is a heavy investment being put in the port of over the next couple of years, possibly reaching up to 54 million euro. And of course, heavy investment comes with heavy financing of the order of about 100 million rupees per year in loan repayments. So the port has to recoup that kind of money, and obviously it would come from those who use these facilities, which would be the domestic travelers, tourists who use the same facilities, and on the commercial side, you will have the cargo vessels and fishing vessels and all of the international vessels that come through the port.
The Cabinet of Ministers were also briefed on the findings of an assessment on citizenships that were awarded under Section 5 of the Citizenship Act 1994. Under this act, that operated between 1995 and 2009, stated that citizenships should be acquired through an economic investment program. Vice President Ahmed Afif said that the Cabinet agreed that award of citizenship should be respected in cases where applicants had properly complied with all the requirements of the law at the time. However, citizenship awarded without the full due process will be subject to further investigation and possibly revoked in accordance with the law.
The committee found that after talking to very key personnel who were involved in the implementation of this program in 95 to 98 and beyond, that there wasn't a lot of documentation pertaining to the financial part of the transaction. So, for example, if you had invested in Seychelles, there was on file that this person has invested in Seychelles, but no proof of that investment. There was on file that this person had paid all the fees, but there wasn't proof that the fees had been paid. And the reason given was that the evidence had been destroyed or was not available because it had disappeared due to flooding and humidity.
The Cabinet of Ministers also approved the Seychelles National Aquaculture Policy. Vice President Afif said that the policy is important to help with the development of the aquaculture sector since it is relatively new in the country. The work to draft this policy started in 2017.
To ensure there's good governance, so everybody knows what the framework is, how to get a license, how to get a permit, that the business is done in a sustainable way, that there is support from all institutions to develop the sector. The investment climate around this sector is clear, so people know what would be the taxes that would be paid, what license fees are payable, and it would apply to all. And that there's a clear marketing policy, how this is done, people are trained for that, and that there is research and development that is provided for in the policy so that people can comfortably go into that business and therefore minimize their risks.
The Supreme Court has reserved its ruling on whether to release on bail the second accused in the Arms and Prevention of Terrorism case, Laura Valabji. This morning, Chief Justice Ronnie Govinden heard the submissions of both sides, the defense and the prosecution, on the subject of bail.
It's the foreign lawyer of Mrs. Valabji who was first to present her arguments in favor of releasing her client on bail. Amongst her arguments, she quoted the Constitution that says incarceration should not be used as a punishment. She adds that the prosecution in its objections has used the same arguments all along, and there are no documents relating to the weapons connected to Mrs. Valabji. For the prosecution, there is no change of circumstances, and that Mrs. Valabji has the means to flee or interfere with witnesses, especially now that the trial has begun. He adds that there is no documents yet connecting Mrs. Valabji to the arms discovered because they have not been able to access digital devices seized from Mrs. Valabji. He says this is a serious case with the subsequent amount of arms discovered, with the amount of firearms unaccounted for, so the court must be prudent in deciding to release Mrs. Valabji on bail. Meanwhile, the court has remanded the first three accused, Mrs. Valabji and her husband Mukesh and Leslie Benuato, until the 7th of next month.
Seychelles Breweries plans to work with the Ministry of Health to educate the public on responsible drinking. A team from Diageo, the company that owns Seychelles Breweries, visited the president to discuss the topic. Among the team was the president of Diageo Africa, Dialan Nayaga, and the incoming managing director of Seychelles Breweries, Yvonne Mwangi, who will take the post on the 11th of September. Mrs. Mwangi said that they are satisfied with the performance of the company and that they have done well over the last few years.
As Diageo and Seychelles Breweries, we are committed to making sure that we educate consumers on alcohol. Alcohol is alcohol, red wine, beer, whatever it is still alcohol. And so just educating consumers on alcohol, caloric content, just basically what it does to your body, get people into the brewery to come and see how we produce, and basically just continue to ensure that consumers know that you can drink alcohol, but responsibly. So I think that's a role that we plan to play for the next couple of years, including as the president launches, the obesity imperative on October 15th. We really want to partner because I think we play a big role in ensuring that consumers know what it is and basically how they can still enjoy it, but obviously within certain rules and regulations.
That's the end of this news summary. Join me at 8 for the news bulletin in Creole. Until then, have a pleasant evening.